I got a mission. I'm going to open this briefcase right here. And my job is to take a picture of someone. But all they're going to give me is, like, their fingerprint and their job and what building they live in. And so I got to, like, figure out who it is and then take a picture of them. So there you go. That's my
who's
data
having
right
you
there.
take pictures of random people?
I don't know. Someone I found, they wanted to remain anonymous, so I have no idea.
That's not suspicious at all.
Yeah,
So
it is
are
a bit
you-
suspicious.
Are you a PI? Is that what you are?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're kind of like a contract PI.
Okay.
You just like, so like usually it's like big cases will come along where it's like a murder has happened and you're like, that's like the big stuff. But in between,
Yeah.
there's like kind of a lull where stuff doesn't happen.
Oh, that's fun.
And you just go to like these job boards and like you can pick up different jobs, you know?
Mm.
So that's the listing right there. Discrete individual photography skills required.
A reward of a CR1000 TV.
Yep.
Croatian.
The money is
$1,000.
crows, actually.
Oh,
Crows.
okay.
So yeah, so that's that.
One whole murder.
And what I want to talk, well, we can talk about, and you guys can ask questions and stuff, but while we're kind of watching me figure out where to begin with this, because it took me forever to figure out how to proceed,
Uh-huh.
one of the questions I wanted to ask was, what makes you feel like the characters in a game are real or that you get, like, attached to them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of game, you know, narrative, procedural, anything.
Yeah, it's funny you were while I was thinking about this, you posed this question, and I was doing some pondering, and I thought of this weird, funny phenomena that I think occurs for me, where I care less about poorly written characters than I do about simulated, completely unwritten ones. I've been playing like 3 different games lately. We've been playing Crusader Kings, which is a heavily simulated game, and then I've been playing The Last of Us Part 2, which is a heavy story, character-driven game that is really, you know, meticulously planned out. And then I've been playing Battlefield 1 from 2016, and I've been playing the campaign for that. And I could not give any craps about any of the characters in Battlefield 1. I do not, like, it's not like bad writing, it's just lackluster. It's a bit mediocre.
Yeah.
And it's funny to, like, compare, you know, a written character to someone like CK3, Crusader Kings 3, where, like, you know, these are just numbers that have been compiled and happen to make this, you know, child of mine. But
Yeah.
because they're a child of mine and they have a random name and a random haircut and a random face, I'm like, my son.
They're
you know?
mine.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think
It's funny, like, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Oh no, you go ahead. You go first.
I was just going to say, I kind of like, it's almost like a badly written character not only doesn't make me care about them, but it makes me, like, hate them and want to be contrary to them. You know?
Yeah.
Not like they're annoying as a person, as a character, just like they're written poorly, and that annoys me so much that I'm like, I resist caring about you. I don't want to invest in this story because you are very poorly written. Does that make sense?
Definitely. I think that I had that problem in Horizon Zero Dawn. I won't say that
I was
the
about
game has,
to
like,
say.
I don't want to like flat out say it's got bad writing. I don't think it's necessarily like. Okay, so here's the quest I think of every time that just gets my goat. There's this like super half-assed quest where you are supposed to go talk somebody down from like jumping, from like killing themselves, like, and it's like a 3-minute conversation, 4 lines of dialogue. Your character just like is like, oh wow, life's hard, and he's like, oh, you're right. And like, it's, you know, zero effort. Like, they just like have taken a potentially very, you know, a very dramatic, a very like heavy subject and distilled it into this, you know, flavored water version of it. Just
a LaCroix.
like, yeah, no, really, but not as exciting because it doesn't even have bubbles. It's just so, and it is a side quest. It's a side quest, but it just felt so cheap. I was like, what? Wait, you want me to get invested in this game? And they have these like I don't know. The animations are very stiff. The performances aren't bad. Some of them aren't bad. But I had a similar problem with a lot of the main story in that game too. I just felt like it was very. I didn't feel like it was particularly well written, to my tastes. To be considerate to those writers, but I just like. There were characters where I was like, I feel like this archetype's kind of fine, and if I just skip through all this dialogue, I can write my own story in my head that I would like better and like all these characters better. And so, like,
interesting.
Like, there's a certain degree of imagination that I think is really nice in a lot of simulated games, like when I'm playing XCOM or Crusader Kings, and I've got a soldier or a little child of my dynasty that, like, it's just numbers, a randomized name, a random face, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're mine, like I can kind of imagine and project a sort of narrative. But I think also for that, it's important to me that they have some level of autonomy, like that they don't do exactly what I say. Like in XCOM, I had this character that I loved, and she was like one of my most valuable soldiers. But during this one mission, she panicked and went AWOL. And the aliens abducted her, and I was so sad. And so, like, when I finally had the opportunity to, like, go on stage a rescue mission, it was super fun and super rewarding, and I really cared about this character, but she really just was random. So pretty interesting.
It's almost like sometimes I agree. I think they do need to have some autonomy, because I feel like if it's just like they do everything you say all the time as a player, then they don't feel real. Because I feel like a person, for you to care about a person, there's actually got to be a fair amount of like frustration in the relationship as well as everything positive,
Every Minecraft
like,
villager.
There's got to be.
Every Minecraft villager.
Yeah, exactly. Or like The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite examples of, like, characters in games ever. It's just one of my favorite games ever. But in The Witcher 3, like, every character sometimes frustrates me. Like, and I love that they sometimes frustrate me. Like Lambert can be annoying. Both of the girls can be annoying. That Lambert. But like all of them, like everyone can be, like, Regis can be a little annoying sometimes, and like I guess you haven't seen that one either of you, but like it's the fact that they're doing their own thing that makes them somewhat annoying sometimes, and that is why. But it's part of why I like them too. It's like, oh, they're a real person, they're doing their own thing, they have their own wants, and they're not always what I want. And so, like, having a relationship with them means I got to deal with the fact that they want different things from me.
Yeah. Side note, I like all of these fingerprints on these doors, just to imagine these people just like kind of poking. No, not the doorknob, of course not, but like, they're just
it's on like the bottom of the door. I think so. Just I'll tell you real quick, and then I want to hear your thought. But what I'm doing here is, all I know is that they live somewhere in this building, that they're a scientist, and that their fingerprint is BE. And so I was like, I didn't know the better way to do this, so I decided, I'm just going to go floor by floor and scan every door until I find that. So I'm making a note about that right now, actually, I think.
That's really funny.
But Noah, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm not a parent. I've never been one, but the closest, I've ever come to that was playing Crusader Kings 3. The closest I've ever come to parental frustration was playing Crusader Kings 3 and watching my son continuously get into fights and being like, stop, and he keeps getting beat up, and I'm like, and I can't like do anything. I'm just like, stop it, he keeps coming back with black eyes and stuff. But it's like what you said. It's like, it's frustrating. And it's annoying, and it causes you, and it gives you grief. But like, it's autonomy, and because of that, it makes it feel more real than I think any poorly written character kind of could.
That's so interesting. I was fully expecting this conversation to start with talking about how narrative characters are like always better. Yeah. But it totally started in the opposite direction, where it's like, oh, and yeah, if they are well written, then I think that's probably the case. But also, if they're poorly written, then it's like the inverse effect, where it's actually like takes you way out of it.
Yeah.
So
I think there's
That's
something really, really valuable to be said, though, for like the relationship of a systemic character, of like a unique character who like really responds to you. Like, I feel like most written characters just don't have. I mean, most games with written characters just don't have the time to write that much dialogue and that much like unique interaction with you. I don't know. Like even if the relationship is simple, like, oh my goodness, villager, go over here. The fact that like it is a relationship, it's like my experiences with the character are born out of, you know, my interactions with them, my specific interactions, my specific frustrations, and not like scripted. Makes them feel more personal to me.
Because it's like you as a player have a relationship with them if they start doing things and you have to like respond and react and stuff, instead of just whatever character you're playing have a relationship with them, you know.
Yeah,
It's there's also I think something that is kind of unique to simulated games. I mean, and story games can do this too, you know, or a handcrafted, you know, narrative can do this too. But it's more unique to simulated is that oftentimes with simulated characters, there's a legitimate risk of them being lost. Whether that's in something like The Sims or Crusader Kings or XCOM or even Minecraft with like villagers. It's like it's like real life, you know. It's, you know, people, you care about them, but with that comes the weight of the very real potential that you might lose them at any time. And so when you're doing a narrative game, like, yeah, like that can still be there. And you know, I've definitely had moments where I'm playing a game and I'm like, oh, please don't do this to this character, and like, you know, because they've set it up in such a way that they want to like pull out that feeling. But when that happens naturally, because, you know, you've just grown attached to this unique character that's unique to you. It's like what you were saying, Nick, with like, you know, with that girl of yours in XCOM, that, you know, like there's a legitimate risk that a lot of there's a chaotic risk, you know, there's like a legitimate chaos there that is sometimes a little uncontrollable, and that makes it really compelling. You know, you never know if a bunch of pillagers are going to raid your Minecraft village, or you never know if like all of a sudden your sim is going to start a fire and die, or you know, your son is going to get cholera in Crusader Kings or something. Like, it just happens. It just happens. And so it kind of makes it more risky, and I think to that extent more meaningful sometimes.
The potential for losing them, you're saying, makes them more valuable to you. That's interesting.
Like real life.
That's very interesting. That's true, yeah. I mean, I guess when you realize that everyone you know and love in real life isn't going to be there forever, that makes you value the relationship a lot more. So it makes sense that would be the same in a game, too. That's fascinating. I didn't think of that.
And none of this is to say that, you know, I've not gotten ridiculously attached to characters in heavily narrative games.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah. I mean, they can be well written to the point where, you know, they definitely were. I mean, I think about The Last of Us characters all the time. I think about a lot of games. I even think about some games that are only mediocre in quality when it comes to the narrative that I still think about and care about. So,
yeah.
What I'm doing here, by the way, right now is I realized it might be faster to do the mailboxes than the doors, because if I can figure out, if I can find their fingerprint on their mailbox, then I can just go to that apartment. But
so smart.
Doesn't end up working, but it's
big apartment building.
Yeah, it's got like 15, 16 floors.
This game is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually ever successfully completed a case in it.
Oh, really?
No.
It's a lot of fun, I think.
It is, yeah.
But it takes some learning, for real. Yeah. And actually, so I want to talk about characters, even though this game is really not about characters, because this is a game where the characters are all generated and systemic and whatever. But I don't really care about them at all, even though they have like a ton of information on them. And I was trying to figure out why that was. Maybe one of the things is that you don't have a relationship to anyone. Like, you remain aloof the whole time, and there's no way for you to really be close to anyone, or to even, you know, become friends or anything, really. It's just, you don't have a boss, you don't have employees, you don't have a family. You're completely, you know, hard-boiled solo detective. So
Yeah.
So I was just trying to figure that out. Yeah, but go ahead. No, what were you gonna say?
Oh, sorry. No, I think that this game in particular, like, obviously this is a game of information. Like, that's like the point of this game. You know, it's like this game it's a puzzle game of putting things together. So it makes sense that, like, that's not really the point. It's not really about these characters. It's about the information that these characters have.
Right. Yeah.
And there's so many of them. I mean, like, I don't even.
Oh,
I wish I knew the numbers of like how many automated, fully automated NPCs are on a map at a time. Because it's probably, I would assume it's hundreds. I don't know, but I would assume it's hundreds. Just because this apartment
We'll look
alone
it up.
probably has like 50 people in it. But
Yeah, 15 floors with
like six bedrooms each. Like that's a lot. That's a lot. But there's some. I think that like, oh man, I'm thinking about scarcity with like characters too, and like how that can kind of make you a little more inclined to care about them. I think in a game like this, like there's so many that even if they did have like unique, compelling stories, I don't know, I would just be overwhelmed. I would be overwhelmed by the amount of people that there are. So it makes sense that that's not what they're focusing on.
Yeah, and it makes me think of like in Minecraft, I really enjoy the villager dynamic in Minecraft. I like having characters that I get to interact with. I like villagers, even if they're very simple.
Yeah.
But like I usually keep my numbers very small so that I can keep track of them. If I've ever in like a village with like 200 villagers, it's like forget it. At that point they're just pawns. They're just there. They're just they're cattle. They're traffic. Just get in the way, and it's hard to like know who's who and like to remember any of them. But if you've got like a smaller number of a cast of characters to keep track of, then I feel like it's a lot easier. I feel like that's the case for a lot of fiction though. Like the more characters, the more distinct they've got to be so that you can remember them. Minecraft doesn't do a great job of that because all of the villagers look exactly the same. I think about like I've watched some anime that have had like literal dozens of main characters, but I'm able to keep track of them because they all look like freaking anime characters, right? Like, there's no confusing, the guy with the crazy hairdo and the rippling muscles for the guy who's like 4 foot tall and also has an octopus for a head, like
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was watching The Wire again last night, and we're in season 4 again right now, and I was just realizing like how many characters have been introduced at this point already. Like there's so many of them, but I think that the show does a really good job, and I think that this could work in games too, of just like you always know. So it introduces a bunch of new characters to you as you go along, right? It does it fairly quickly, but it always introduces them like in relation to what you already have established. It's like it's like you already have like some people, and then it starts connecting. It's like, okay, well, this new character is connected to them because they have this role in their organization, or because they're enemies with this person, or they're in love with this person. And so like whenever it introduces new people, it connects it back to the existing like network of characters that you have in a way that's relevant to the conflict of the story that you're following,
Yeah.
And I think that helps to keep them all comprehensible, I found her apartment, by the way, so
Yeah.
How did you do
by
that?
now I figured out her name. So
Was
it
it
was
just
just I
the
found her
fingerprints?
fingerprint on the door.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking around I'm trying to find like how to find her, or I could just like camp out in her house, but I figured I'll try to like track her down. So
Yeah.
because I don't know how long she'll be. So right now I'm just poking around. It looks like she lives alone. There's nobody here but her. So, and she's not in right now. So, but I've got
got
that
a laser.
security laser. Yeah.
I thought of something, Nick, while you were talking about the villagers and keeping them small in numbers. Just, I was thinking about Dark Souls, because I always do. And Dark Souls characters are extremely unique, for one thing. But
Yes.
meeting a character in Dark Souls is like a monumental occasion. Like that just doesn't happen like ever, because most of the time you're just fighting scary bad guys and monsters, and that game I truly do care about the characters that I meet, whether I'm cautious of them or scared of them, or whether I'm scared they're gonna kill me or kill some other character that I like, or whether I think I can use them. Like, because there's so few of them, if you've been hiking through the depths of the smoldering lake in Dark Souls 3, and then you stumble upon Havel, or I can't remember who, and you're like, whoa, what are you doing here? And it's such an exciting moment when you do find them. That just made that's when you're talking about like the having so few villagers makes you remember them, and I think having in a game like Dark Souls, having so few characters, having them spread out so much, makes every single character the most important character you've ever met, because they're just so few and far between.
I think something else that's cool about Dark Souls is that they have that kind of quest line thing where basically every character is going someplace and doing something in Dark Souls, with some exceptions. But like generally, even though it's super scripted, like they go from one place to another, if you talk to them, they'll go to another place. There's often not like a ton of like rhyme or reason to, like, if you talk to them here, they'll go to this place and die. And it's like there's a certain element of like unpredictability to what they're going to do depending on what you do. And so like my first experience playing the first Dark Souls game, it was tragic because every character that I cared about ended up dead, and usually in very tragic ways. And I felt like I was kind of just an observer. Like I was there. I was like, I had the feeling that if I'd been paying better attention, I could have helped them. But really with Dark Souls, it's just, did you talk to them here? Did you answer this dialogue option, right? There's like, it's all very laid out. And so a lot of people will be like, well, if you want this armor, you got to make sure this person's alive. You can like min-max through it. And that's kind of what I've done on subsequent playthroughs of Dark Souls, is like, I kind of plan out a route through the game. You kind of know where everything's going. It's almost like a Hitman level at that point, right? You have this kind of foreknowledge. But when I'm playing my first playthrough, there's this magic of not knowing, what you're doing that's affecting people and what you're doing that's not. And I think it's really fun that it kind of simulates that sort of autonomy.
Yeah, it does. I think that's really interesting that this autonomy thing keeps coming up, because you got to feel like they have their own goals. Otherwise, they don't feel like real people. That's so interesting. And I was thinking about what Noah was saying too, about having like a limited cast that you can kind of pay attention to and everything. I wonder, because that's something I struggle with in Crusader Kings a lot of the times. It's like, there's like 1 billion people.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to track who everyone is. It's impossible to track who everyone is. And I do struggle with that when I play that game. But also, it kind of has like this natural filtering kind of thing that designates who's important to you, because like it's like family or like your boss or your vassals or whatever. Like it kind of like sorts and like collects all of them under your character's interface or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's kind of a way that, rather than only having a small number of characters, it has a lot of them, but it kind of curates them, so that who is relevant to you, so you know who to focus on.
Yeah, it funnels them.
Yeah. And I don't think
Right.
it's perfect, but I do think it helps.
Oh yeah, and I think about like my most recent time playing Crusader Kings with this new update where you can play landless, and by necessity, you have a much smaller cast of characters because you're not running a kingdom anymore. You're running, a little company, and so you've got, like 2 advisors instead of like 8, and you've got like 4 knights, or whatever. And like I actually knew everybody's name, and so every time an event popped up, I was like, oh, I know who that is. And that was some of the most fun I've had with Crusader Kings so far.
Yeah, I really like the landless DLC. That's really good. So to catch you up on what I'm doing here, I found her place of work, and now I'm trying to find her. But I'm only they're only let you in this like main room here. The other rooms are you're not supposed to get there. So I'm trying to get into the employee records on the computer so I could get at least so I know what she looks like.
Yeah.
I just found the code there in the drawer. So
Because it doesn't tell you NPCs' names when you talk to them, huh?
unless they volunteer that information, which nobody
That's
does
so
because, yeah.
Why would you? Yeah.
You can bribe them, but that's some people are more helpful. But
You bribe them. I'll give you $5 if you tell me your name.
yeah, pretty much. So I got the
I
boss's password,
Love
and
the
now
way
I'm
your
popping in
hands
here.
look. Yeah.
Oh yeah, aren't they fun?
I'd like
zombie ants.
really love the way this game looks, actually. Like printed
good look.
employee record.
Now I know what she looks like.
All right.
She's got crazy fun sunglasses.
So remember, my mission is to get a picture of her, so I just gotta find her and take that picture. Nobody
fun.
wants you to take their picture in this game, though.
That makes sense. You just got to do it and run. Are there like consequences, like if you get in trouble with the law, or like?
People will attack you pretty easily in this game. Like if you bother them or sneak into their house, and like they'll just like attack you. A lot of people carry guns too, so yeah.
But is there like a police force?
There's a police force. I don't think they care about anything. They don't really solve crimes. They don't. They just kind of do token efforts and beat you up if you get in the way.
Yeah.
So, I think this is her boss here. I'm trying to track her down.
She says she's here right now.
Yeah, she is. I'm gonna find her. So, I have another question then.
Yeah.
Since we're talking a lot about generative games and everything, I kind of wanted to go over this anyway. Like, what makes a generated simulated character like connect with you? So we got autonomy, but like what else? And we got kind of like relationships too, like in Crusader Kings it's your family or whatever,
Right. Some
but like
some
what
form
else?
of connection to you, the player.
Right, exactly. So what else might do that for you in a game where it's not narrative and not scripted? Like what tends to make that work?
That's a good question.
Sorry, I was just looking at what you were doing right now, and I was chuckling to myself, and then actually here, can you repeat it?
Yeah. You see me trying to take a picture of them as they come out.
Thought it was really funny.
Yeah, so you could say, I'll give you money for your name, and you give them $50 to.
That's
Yeah, so
funny.
like in a procedural game or in a simulated game where the characters are not written, what can help you connect with them?
Yeah.
What has done that before?
Looks like everything went wrong. Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. I mean, we already, like you said, we already have autonomy and connection to the player character.
Yeah, which might be
Scarcity.
a lot. Oh, scarcity can help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, there are so many people.
Yeah.
They're all leaving right now. They just finished their shift. So I found her. There she is.
Yeah, I just saw her.
Orange
See the
hair.
picture?
Just falling around with the camera. I apologize. I do want to answer the question. There's just so much happening right now.
I know.
That's
I'm
right,
so
let's watch
interested.
this. So yeah, I happen to be here just as everyone gets out. It's like 5 o'clock. Everyone goes home. And I was trying to confirm that it was her, and I did. So
Honestly, I
this
feel like
picture.
those three things we said are kind of the biggest thing for me. Like,
yeah,
and I'm not sure if I can think of what else might accomplish the same thing those do.
yeah, I think you're right. Those are really good to start with. Let's watch how this all plays out. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
See if I
Follow
finish
her
my
into
mission.
The public bathroom.
Decided to ambush her.
Probably everyone's worst fear is standing in the bathroom, coming out, and having someone just take a photo of you.
Yeah. Did that work? That's a picture.
Got
of
her.
Now everyone hates you.
Nice.
And now everyone comes after you, and they all start shooting you. Everyone.
Like
Look at all these
everyone
people.
at the pharmacy has a pistol. Everyone.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
You're bleeding.
That was the most overreactive thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
So I think we did answer that question already. That's a good one. Let's watch how this plays out, and then we'll wrap this up. But
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
yeah, but they're just chasing me. People are really sensitive in this game.
Yeah.
Take a picture
think
of
I-
them, and they just go crazy.
Yeah, I think I have one final thought that makes a difference for me too.
Sure.
But I can share that in a minute if we want to wait till after this.
I mean, I'm selecting the picture, and then I just got to go hand it in, and that's it. So
Nice.
yeah, go ahead and share your thought now. We'll see.
All right, yeah. Well, I think that something this making me think of it. And this is just a small thing, but when you have the opportunity to change your relationship with somebody, and especially when you have the opportunity to repair a relationship with somebody, I think that is really cool. Like, it really bothers me in games where you make an offense and you can't apologize. Like, I wish more games had, like, a sorry feature. You know, like, hey, can I make this up to you? But generally in games, as soon as you're out of somebody's favor, like, there's nothing you can do. There's just nothing. You know, you've locked yourself out of things. But, like, Minecraft, silly as it is, has villagers cool down a little while after you've hit them. You know, they aren't hostile forever. And so I think that's a cool thing. Just peeking under the door.
Yeah. It's just sliding that in there. It's kind of like, I feel like this is kind of true of regular human relationships too. Like, the stuff that gets broken and then fixed is often more valuable. I don't know, you get more attached to them. It's like, because you went through something difficult together, you know?
Yeah.
Solved my case.
Well done. You got
social
social credits.
I did, yeah. There's social credit in this game.
Nice.
But yeah, that's a good thought. Like, yeah, maybe fixing things feels good to the relationship, I think. So maybe that's another good thing.
It's
to
action
consider.
and reaction, right? It's like,
yeah.
It's like, obviously there's autonomy, but like, if I do something mean, I want someone to be mad at me. But if I do something nice, I would like them to I would like them to recognize that too. And if they don't, for any reaction, if it feels like there's like not, and obviously, you know, there's a lot of that's tough to do for everything in a game, and you can't you can't simulate everything, but if you do something, if you behave in such a way, and then like there's just nothing there, and it's flat, whether it's like, you know, apologizing for something you did wrong or hurting someone, and then they're like, oh, it's fine, whatever, I don't really care. It's like that's a pretty surefire way to kind of like make me go, oh, okay, I don't care about this character. It's not real. This doesn't mean anything.
I love having like a rival in Crusader Kings and then like becoming friends eventually, overcoming that, like taking, because it takes effort to get past that, and then like, but then like it's like, okay, like we used to hate each other and now we're friends. I think that's a really compelling dynamic and kind of bonds you to the character, you know. I think that's why so many rom-coms start that way, you know. Like they hate each other or they're rivals or something, and then they overcome that because of the force of their attraction to each other or whatever, you know. That's an interesting conflict, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.